Hello everyone, recently I posted the video going over my Lego Star Wars D&D table that I made, fully custom. It was pretty neat, but I also had a lot of questions asking how I managed to run this. What system did I use, how did I implement it with my friends. So today I want to be going over the very basics of how I did character creation, how I ran the campaign on the actual table, and just kind of like little things that we did. So without further ado, let's hop right into it. Now the first thing that you're going to want to do is actually build something. You can make this as big or as small as you want, depending on how many friends you have, how many pieces you have in your collection to actually build, depending on the size of the room you're building in. Obviously I built something quite large and quite elaborate here, but you can build something on just a little 32 by 32 base plate. Your imagination is your limits, but to really immerse yourself into the Lego playing aspect of it, you want to build yourself a little piece of terrain, a little base, little town, little forest, just something. So it's something to get your campaign to get going. Now the next thing you're going to want to do is go to starwars5e.com. So you can see up here, sw5e.com. This is a fan website where they've converted Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition into a Star Wars campaign. It's a really, really great website. And they got tons of different handbooks to teach you how to play, help you create your characters, and all the works in between. So the first thing you're going to want to do is create an account. You'll do that up here. It's totally free, and then that helps you save your characters for future use. Then to actually create your character, you can go into Tools up here in the top right, and then Character Creator. Now once actually into the character creator, you can build your character. So you can see a couple of the ones that I built in the past. But to start completely new, just go down to this plus sign in the bottom right, get next plus sign, and then this will take you to the character creator. So the first thing you want to do to build a character is choose your species, and Star Wars 5e has tons and tons of species that you can choose from. I mean, guys that I have never even heard of, and I'm a pretty big Star Wars fan. Like, what's a given? No idea. But they have that option, so the species that you can choose from is pretty diverse and vast. But the top is probably the most common species chosen, and probably the most fleshed out, because each species does, or most species have like a certain buff or debuff. So let's just go super easy, and we'll just create a human. So up here you can see all the different stats of your character, their or just their base stats and their base appearances, and you can choose obviously in the classic D&D what eye color they have, what hair color you have, just how involved you want to get. They also give you just a basic biology appearance, society and cultural names you can choose from, and all their traits. And then down here you can choose the options to increase your skill set by. We'll just kind of fly through this pretty quickly, just a very basic overview, but know that this all exists to help flesh out your character. Once you've done that, you can hit continue, and this is where you're going to choose your class. And this is really important, obviously, when building your character. You want to game with your friends, figure out what your party needs, what they don't need, so you don't dupe up. Or if you just really want to be a berserker, you can choose berserker. The website has berserker, consular, engineer, fighter, guardian, monk, operative, scholar, scout, sentinel, and all of these have a pretty basic translation from classic D&D. Like a monk obviously is a monk. The engineer is like the artificer. They're pretty similar to their regular D&D counterparts. But the website does give you just a basic overview of everything, some traits, what their proficiencies are, features, hit points, and all the works in between. So we'll make a human berserker, be super basic. So add the class, and then you will go through your features and read everything you want. It's pretty simple there. Everything. It's pretty in-depth. You have a lot of reading to do, but that's just classic D&D, right? It's also here that you'll input your levels for your character. So if you want to start them out as level 3, you can do that. Obviously, you get more features and like spell slots. This one, Star Wars obviously uses Force, so the Force slots, and that'll all be added here. Here you'll input all of your ability scores. They have the basic 15, 14, 13, yada yada, but then also you do have the ability to input them manually, so you can if you choose to roll for them, you have that option as well. So hit continue, Here is where you do all the basic, fluff for you, their name, if you have an image that you want to put it. So if you have like a Lego character that you made, this is where you can actually input the image of the character. You also choose your alignment. They have light and dark side in classic Star Wars fashion. You also have the background. So what do they want to be? Do you want to be a Jedi, a Mandalorian? All of these give you like specific traits and also just add some background to your character. You also just input your characteristics, how in depth you want to go is totally up to you. This is all just fluff. It doesn't really affect the gameplay unless you're playing like super in depth. Like some campaigns, the height and weight will matter, but 99% I feel like it's not important. But this is just totally for you. And then here you can choose all your equipment that you want to do. So they have gear, beverage, ammunition, armor, pretty much anything you can think of. And one complaint I have, it's not very easy to search through and figure out what it does without manually clicking through everything. They are broken up into the categories obviously, but other than that you kind of have to go in and read. But they do give you the cost and how much they weigh, and then you can input the quantity that you have. And so if you do, just add that. You also have the ability to do custom items, so that's really neat as well. Now, if we had input everything correctly, the ability scores and description, we would be able to, actually we'll just do it real quick so I can show you the final product of what a character sheet looks like for everything, because it's pretty cool. Blah blah blah. Continue. What am we forgetting here? Alignment, I think, background, and everything else is just fluff. So now you can go into your actual character sheet. You got your name up here, what your class is, human berserker, level 3. You got your hit points, and here you can actually go in and give yourself a bonus. You can, I took 7 damage and it removes damage. That's really cool. You can do this on your phone or a computer depending on what you're doing. Obviously I use this for a Lego Star Wars run, but you can totally just run this as a D&D fashion because that's actually what it's made for, obviously. Down here you can click through all your different stats, your items. So this is your casting, so if you were a Force user or if you also had some tech stuff, there are engineers that have tech points. Your equipment, you got your background and flavor text and all that. This is also where you see your proficiencies. This is your character background, and then here is just some notes, so if you want to add any backstory to your character. So this is pretty much how you make your character in Star Wars 5e. We kind of went through it fast and loose, but hopefully that's the basics to help you do that. So once everyone is done making their characters on the online website, we go make their characters in physical form. So these are some of the characters that my friends have played when we played. We had like a Wookiee berserker. This guy was like an anthropologist, just a droid, You can do whatever you want. You can mix and match some minifigures, or you can use standard pre-built ones like, Chopper or Chewbacca here. But the point of that is just to have fun. Now, if you're actually interested in running a campaign, you can go to the home page here, and all of the rule books are located down here if you just scroll down a little bit, but they're also in this nice handy tab that you can look through. The player's handbook is just the basics, how to run a D&D campaign, the basic rules, how to build a character, all that fun stuff. The Scum and Villainy one here, this is where you're going to go look for enemies and NPCs. They have quite a few different things you can check out. Enemies, B1s, Ackley's, they have, and it's pretty well encompassing. You can see 271, and then there's also tons of other fan-made characters that you can look up for yourself, and they're all pretty cool, and they got some cool rules and whatnot. Starships of the Galaxy, this is where you're going to go if you want to build a starship or if you want to do anything with spaceships. I personally haven't used this. I just did some, very basic spaceship stuff when I ran the campaign and whatnot. So, but it is pretty, well written and easy to follow, as most of these rule books are. Wretched Hives, I have not actually looked through, or the variant rules or expanded content. So basically, if you just want to just get started running a campaign, all you really need are these first two. So when combat isn't initiated, my friends just kind of have free reign to move their minifigures wherever they want, just kind of play around. You'll role play some interactions, some conversations and whatnot. But it's pretty simple. There's no like movement speed debuffs or whatever, I just kind of, let them do whatever they want. So the way that I ran this particular dungeon crawl was that the characters would have to like hack the system here, and then when they would, I would just simply remove the next area's cover there, and they would have to deal with whatever comes up. So this one, I would remove the door physically, and bam, looks like they got some enemies to fight here. So let's get into how I ran the combat system. And the way that combat works, I've run it very similar to the way that actual D&D goes. Everyone would, of course, roll the D20 for initiative, and whoever gets highest would go first. As the game master, I just make all the bad guys go at once to, kind of just make it a little more simple for me on the back end. But the melee people would, have to be in a melee striking range, whereas the ranged people could, shoot from far away. So I'll pull up a character sheet right here. When you're rolling for melee, you of course would roll strength, and then shooting would be dexterity. So in the Star Wars one, dexterity is pretty important because everyone's got a gun. I feel like it's a little bit different from regular D&D, where I think strength is usually a little bit more common. But it's pretty simple. I don't try and change things too much. I'm also not super stringent on the rules. If my player thinks that they got a good shot over there, I'm not going to measure line of sight and whatever. I would do, however, cover though. So if, for example, if this guy had a gun and he was shooting this character over here, he's got some cover, so I would have like a debuff to that roll, or whatever. It's just kind of your own way as a game master to kind of do combat. I try to make it as simple as possible for the players, because D&D can be pretty complicated, especially for newer players, so the easier it is, the better. I hope you all enjoyed the video and learned a lot on how to make a LEGO D&D campaign. So until next time, I hope you like, comment, and subscribe to join the Emperor's Legion, and I'll see you later.